Happy Easter, Shubhanti.
Thank you, Praneel. Yeah, happy Easter to you too.
You're welcome. Happy Easter to you too, Shubhanti. Happy Easter, Shubhanti. How are you?
I am doing well, thanks. And we'll be starting the program soon, Praneel. So I think so I'll go on mute, okay?
Okay.
Sairam Ravi.
Sairam, Senthil, sorry, I think it's about to start, no? So,
Yeah, perfect.
is it okay?
Yeah, all good, I think. Shubha, the volume and all is good, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
You'll be
Sairam.
able to let me share my screen, no?
Yes, it's all set.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Sairam, everyone. A very happy Easter to all of you. With Swami's grace, hope everyone is doing well.
Happy
Taking
Easter, Senthil uncle.
Thank you, Pranil. Happy Easter to you. So, hope you're all taking all the
Happy
necessary.
Easter, Senthil.
Thanks, Pranil. Hope you're all taking necessary precautions as well and keeping everyone in your prayers. Thank you all for the active participation in the various center activities, be it the opportunities to the SSC children, service to your communities, the active participation in all the devotional activities, be it tech support to Swami's activities, just to name a few. It's indeed a blessing to be part of the Sai community. It is very motivating to see so many of you, actively work on the gardening project, Growing Sai's Love. On this auspicious occasion of Good Friday and Easter, we are blessed with a very special instrument, Brother Ravi Mariwala, who helps in growing Sai's love in our own hearts. Not only in Raleigh, his efforts encompass the whole world. From the Sai organization perspective, thank you so much, Brother Ravi, Sister Jagruti, your two loving children, Krishna and Siddharth, for all the sacrifices and efforts as part of the Sai family that you do to every one of us. In fact, we cannot thank you enough. For some of you that haven't met Ravi or don't know about him, Ravi hails from Mumbai. His full name is Ravi Maribala. He's from Mumbai. He's blessed to be part of Balvikas and Pre Sevadal and broke and spoke in Baba's presence in 1979 in Mumbai and again in Patti in the same year. From then on, he had a very strong desire to study at Baba's college. Bhagwan gave him this opportunity in the year 1982, and he studied there for 9 years. At Swami's College, he was part of the speakers group, the brass band, and participated actively in various service activities. Through these 9 years, he had many opportunities to interact with Bhagwan. He also accompanied Swami to Kodaikanal and Chennai. He was also blessed recipient of 3 gold medals for distinction MSc, MBA, and all-rounders gold medal from Bhagwan's own hands. What a blessing. The highlight of his time with Swami came when, after completing his MBA program, Swami himself asked him to work as one of the first employees of Sri Satya Sai Super Specialty Hospital at Prashanti Nilayam. Ravi served at the hospital for 14 years in the cardiac surgery departments, playing multiple roles, including serving as a full-time clinical perfusionist. Ravi considers it a blessing to share with the community the memories, the learnings, and insights he has gained from Bhagwan. Indeed, it's our blessing today to hear your experiences, Brother Ravi. And please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Brother Senthil. Pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet.
Happy Easter, Ravi uncle.
Sairam, Sairam. Thank you. So
You're welcome.
one of my thoughts as you so kindly read out my bio is to make sure that I give a little bit of a shorter bio for people, especially because in this within the Sai Center here, I'm blessed that I belong to this Sai Center, so hopefully I'm not a stranger. But it is wonderful to be back with all of you and to be able to share on this beautiful occasion, especially because I feel very close to the whole topic and the theme, and because as a Sai student, I explored the Sri Satya Sai University library a lot. And especially when Swami used to travel to Brindavan, Chennai, or Mumbai, and he wouldn't take us in those days, that library became a mainstay for me. And to my utter amazement, both within the hostel library and within the college library, I stumbled upon some wonderful books that the Western devotees had donated to the library. And it is very often we don't know the journey we are undertaking. So that constituted the beginning of my journey, to understand Jesus Christ, and to, obviously spend time delighting in the joy of spirituality, even though it was from a slightly different perspective than the Vedic and Vedantic perspective. Nevertheless, it was fantastic, and I could clearly see the unity amongst these approaches. So with that, all of you know that uh, today uh, we are in the middle of two great events, right? I don't know how much of Jewish history all of you know, but I certainly, went deep into Jewish history, because Swami used to tell Professor Gokak, who was our vice chancellor, to take one moral class session about the New Testament. All of you know that the New Testament is nothing but what we commonly call the Bible. And then he had asked uh, Al Drucker, fantastic devotee. He was a great devotee. If you haven't recently looked at his YouTube videos, please look at them. They are really enlightening. And you can see now how these instruments of Swami are bringing his teachings out, and these are unadulterated, bound to size so closely that you cannot mistake that they bring any other quality or approach except Swami's teachings. So on the one hand, we had the New Testament from Professor Gokak, and the Old Testament and the Torah from Al Drucker. And so we had, out of the 5-6 sessions in a week, two of them were oriented toward Judaism and Christianity. And later years in the college, they gave me also an opportunity to speak about Jesus. And the story of Jesus is fascinating. The story of Jesus is illuminating, and it is inspiring. And why is it inspiring? It is inspiring because uh, it reflected what heights a human being can reach to. And, Jesus, while he appeared to be an ordinary human being up until a certain age, miracles began to flow from him. And it is widely recognized that one of the first miracles he did very reluctantly was when his mother, who probably knew about him, approached him frantically when they were at a wedding and the food supplies had run out. And at that time, Jesus did not want to show his powers, but that occasion probably marked the first occasion at which he demonstrated some of these powers, albeit reluctantly. And from then onwards, there was a flood tide of his divine powers, uh, uh, not at all aimed at seeking personal glory. Never once could anybody think that they were directed at glorifying himself. And but it's also interesting for us. So we read a lot of news. We, on some occasions when we read the news gives us a little bit of flashes of history. But I would really recommend to you all, as Sai devotees, we need to dive deep into the lives of the divine masters, of the great masters. There is a special quality about their lives. And even on radio side, there are some very beautiful articles which are fascinating. And whether you study the lives of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramana Maharishi, uh, Shirdi Sai Avatar, Jesus Christ, they will only help you move forward. They will never become obstacles in your spiritual growth. Why? Because they will demonstrate the the quality of love for God, and they will let you live in an inspired way. Whenever I think what is lacking in the world today, brothers, sisters, it is the inspiration that we lack. And it is always in hindsight that we recognize missed opportunities. When I was with Swami, so many people whom I knew in Bal Vikas or later years, Sai devotees from Mumbai would come and see that, I'm living in Swami's residence. They would come to my house and on Saturday or Sunday talk to me and my parents and tell me, I'm inspired that you stayed so many years at Swami's feet. You didn't leave after your MBA. You continued. I am also trying to give up everything and come to Swami. I will sell my house. I leave my job, and after 5 years, I'm going to come to Bhagwan and settle down as you all have done. And then in a few years, Bhagwan was gone. And when I think about the crossroads at which we are always going to be in our lives, I think also of the similar situation in Jewish history that presents itself during the time that Christ was, uh, crucified. And it was the perfect storm. I want to recreate that for you in just a couple of minutes because the Jewish traditions were very, very ritualistic and very tied down to older tradition. So keep that in mind as one highlight of those times. Traditional Jewish religion and approach in life. The second piece of the perfect storm that hit Jerusalem and what is today called Israel, but at that time, was the Jewish land. The second part of that puzzle, which you must know, which probably some of you know a little bit, but you're not actively remembering that, is the fact that just like India was a colony of England, at that point of time, it was the Roman Empire which was very, very strong, which had a great, hold and sway over large parts of the world. And uh, this Jerusalem and the surrounding territories were occupied by the Romans. It's very important for you to know that because and this is, I remember this from a talk that Professor Gokak, the first vice chancellor of the Sri Sathya Sai University, gave us. And he spoke about why Jesus had to die. And yesterday is the day, Good Friday, after Maundy Thursday, where Jesus participated in the Last Supper. That was Thursday. And then on Friday, in the early afternoon, in the Garden of Gethsemane, very tragic events unfolded. Prior to that, Judas had agreed to betray his master for 30 silver coins. And he had been bought, his loyalty had been bought, and he promised the Roman team that he would point out who was Jesus Christ so that they could go and arrest him. Now, why did uh, Judas betray Christ? There are many different versions of this, but one of the most the purer version of which I have always ascribed to myself, subscribed to, is that Judas thought that Christ's name, Jesus' name, is not getting the glory and the recognition that it deserves. And he felt that if he gave Christ up to the Romans, at that point, Jesus would be forced to show his power. And by the demonstration of that power, Jesus would become, would get the glory and the recognition that Judas felt he should be getting. I hope you are tracking with me. And when Judas gives Jesus up by kissing him on the forehead, the Romans know that that is the sign to go and arrest Jesus. And all this happens in the Garden of Gethsemane. And at that time, a Roman soldier comes forward to arrest Christ, and a disciple of Christ jumps up and pulls out the sword of that Roman soldier and attacks him. And during the time of attacking him, uh, cuts off the ear of that Roman soldier. And at that point, Jesus is terrified by the fact that one of his disciples should act in a violent way, even towards somebody who is antagonistic to Jesus. And Jesus immediately steps forward and cures the ear of that Roman soldier. And then certain well known events unfold, which you all know, that Jesus is arrested and taken first to Caiaphas. So, Caiaphas and Annas are the two infamous uh, figures in Jewish history. And they are Caiaphas was the high priest, and Annas, who was his father in law, was the high priest prior. And unable to recognize what Christ was doing, Annas and Caiaphas genuinely believed that if the crowds continued to throng and gather behind Christ, it was sure, they felt, that the Romans would show their hand and punish the Jews. And in some form, that is true, because that is the second big aspect of the Jewish history. One is the fact that Romans ruled them, the other is the fact that the Jewish traditions was so strong, and Annas and Caiaphas were so scared when they saw the huge following that was doubling, tripling every other day. They, of course, they never believed the miracles that Christ was performing, and they even tried to undercut them, misinterpret them, and call them what in Christian terms is called blasphemous or blasphemy. And so there are four types of Jewish priests, just for your knowledge, because it's very interesting, right? We know Indian history, we know a little bit now about American history. It'll be great if you also learn a little bit about Jewish history and the context, the cauldron, it was a melting pot. You know, Jerusalem was literally a melting pot. It was close to Egypt, it was close to Greece, it was invaded and ruled by the Romans, and it was very, very traditional. And then Annas and Caiaphas were very fearful that what would happen, because if so many people continued to gather around Christ, they were sure that all the Jews would be punished by Romans' fear of having to lose the revenue and the tax collection from Jerusalem. So there were four types of Jewish priests: the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, and the Zealots. And all four of them started to go behind Christ to follow him. Whatever he did, they would misinterpret it. Whatever he did, they would look for faults in it. For instance, one day, uh, Jesus passed an area where there was a very old beggar. And seeing that beggar, Jesus felt great pity and compassion for him. But see the way the divine masters work, they have a lot of mysticism around how they act. And sometimes their acts don't align with the way we human beings think. And then we jump to conclusions and project our misapprehension on them. That is the one very big lesson you will get from the Bible, that when these great masters come, never apply human logic to them. And I'll tell you quickly this story before I forget. So Jesus uh, put out some of his saliva. He actually spat on a little bit of the dust and the mud, and he took that mud and he applied it as a paste to the eyes of that beggar. And lo and behold, hundreds of people in the marketplace saw what Christ was doing. They were they were completely, it was a very enigmatic act, because who would spit out, create a paste with the mud and apply it to somebody's eyes? But that's what Jesus was doing. Jesus was young, mind you. Jesus was only 30 years old when he did this. And the priests, these Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Zealots, they gathered to watch, spy, and to misinterpret. And they did not comprehend what Jesus was doing. Not only that, they misinterpreted it and they maligned Jesus. And lo and behold, that old beggar jumped up in joy and started shouting that he could now see for the first time. And then Caiaphas's wife, Caiaphas was the head priest, she pays money to this beggar to be brought to her house, and she tries to give him more money to say that he had not been cured. But even though this beggar did not have even one piece of wealth or one coin, he refuses to take that money, because in his heart of hearts, though he needs the money, though he can be very easily bribed, he refuses that money because he knows that a real miracle has happened with him personally. And you may not believe it, but he tells Caiaphas's wife, the head priest's wife, that he has been blind from birth. So, it is all the more astonishing. Everybody thought that he was blind, but the miracle that Jesus performed was all the more noticeable, all the more unbelievable, all the more difficult to comprehend. How can an ordinary human power, can some form of medical expertise make a man who has never had any vision, who does not know what it is to see by applying a paste made out of your own saliva? And of course, the zealots and the Pharisees misinterpreted it, and they made the people against Christ by misinterpreting those actions. And if you go to see what is the meaning of this misinterpretation, what is the meaning of this projection of our human interpretations, if you go to see, we do the same thing. Though, when you read the Bible, one thought that will come up in your mind is, hey, why are all these people not accepting Christ? What was so big? It's so clear, it's so plain and simple to see that Jesus was good, Jesus was great. Jesus didn't want anything for himself. He was curing, he was healing, he was inspiring, he was uplifting, he was transforming. But, brothers, sisters, that is exactly what you and I also fall prey to. It is very difficult to ascribe divinity to a human being. Think about it. I saw in Prashanti Nilayam many occasions, and it is not about others. Even I myself would have fallen into that trap. Was it not, had it not been for Bhagwan's immense grace? I saw a number of people come there and being unable to accept Swami, being constantly applying their mind. And Raja Reddy has many times said that we cannot we should not analyze Baba, because he's beyond analysis. How much ever you try to analyze, reconstruct, interview people, finally you will come to the conclusion that he is beyond your analysis. And it's not as if the Jews were unable to understand Jesus Christ. Think whether you and me, as Sai devotees, are truly able to comprehend Baba. And it's not that you go to the Sai Center and you send your children to the SSC and that is enough, right? Swami's message was a message of inner transformation. And what is the true meaning of following Swami? So many of us, used to ask Swami, Swami, bless that we may be your true devotees. And Swami used to take that opportunity and say, I don't count any of you as my disciples nor as my devotees. And that used to sometimes alarm us. But then, Swami used to make us happy by saying, you are not separate from me, you are one with me. So, but there was a lot of meaningful, uh, and thought provoking ideas when he refused to acknowledge us as his devotees and disciples. And moving on, I want to show you some of the very beautiful things. For instance, tomorrow is Easter, right? Yesterday was Good Friday. And what is Good Friday? Good Friday, like I told you, after Maundy Thursday, where Jesus participated in the Passover feast. Passover feast is a very big occasion in Jewish religion. And Christ got the disciples together on Thursday evening in and conducted what was called the Last Supper. Now these are amazing milestones you should remember. The Last Supper. The Last Supper was the time where Christ broke the bread and he said, these are pieces of my own body. And then he poured the wine into the disciples' cups and he says, drink, because that is my blood. And as you may be confused today, even the disciples, the 12 who were around Jesus, were completely confused. They had no idea. Why? Because they had no idea of the events that were about to unfold, right? So today, when we look back at the Last Supper, we interpret it to mean that Jesus installed a part of his own divinity. He gave away freely of that divine power which he had earned through his own penance and sadhana. He distributed that amongst the 12 disciples. And what is the proof of that, brothers, sisters? I don't know whether you know, but at one point, the 12 disciples were very confused and they did not know what to do. And then they started traveling and they went in different directions. And as they went in different directions, when they felt pity for people, when they felt compassion for people, cures would happen. And they suddenly found that the power of Jesus was actually embedded within them. The same compassion that Jesus had for the 12 disciples was working through them for the benefit of the world. So that is when they started understanding what Jesus did for them on that day during the uh, Passover feast, which is called the Last Supper. I could not help but show you, like I was trying to tell you so much about Jewish history, right? Because it is the traditions of Judaism, it is the fact that they were controlled and they became a colony of the Romans. And the third part of the triangle is the fact that Jesus was attracting thousands of people. They were letting their professions aside, they were following Jesus. There was a magnetism in his personality. And like I told you, Annas and Caiaphas were very concerned that due to the throngs that were gathering around Christ, maybe the Romans would feel threatened and would punish all the common citizens and of Jerusalem. So what they did is they captured Christ and they took him to Pontius Pilate. So Pontius Pilate was the prefect or the centurion of he represented Rome in Jerusalem. All of you know, in India, when the British ruled India, they had these terms, right? Viceroy, and everybody knows who was the last viceroy of India, right? It was famous Lord Mountbatten. And everybody, we feel very happy that Winston Churchill, who later became Prime Minister of England, right, actually served in the army in India, right? So, in the same way, you see on the right over here, this is Pontius Pilate. And it's very strange the way divine incidents occur, because Pontius Pilate, you see on the right what he is doing. He was asked to try Jesus and to condemn Jesus to the gallows. But then at one point, uh, during this trial, Pilate's wife comes in and tells Pilate, I had a dream that a very unjust activity is about to happen, and I beg of you to have nothing to do with it. So Pontius Pilate on the right, picture in the right, that's a symbol in Roman, in the Roman way, in the Roman tradition. He washes his hands off this trial. And then he sends the prisoner, who is Jesus Christ, back to Annas and Caiaphas, and they condemn him to death. And then, but because they cannot send a man to his death, they send Jesus along with two other prisoners to the court of Pilate once again. And Pilate is very scared at that point, because now he has to perform his duty. And the other prisoner who is available to convict is Barabbas, who has committedly fought against the Roman Empire. And Pilate asked the crowd, who you have a choice. Why are you condemning this innocent man, Jesus? Why don't you condemn Barabbas the murderer? And the crowd, who has been paid for and bribed and bought over by Annas and Caiaphas, cries for the blood of Jesus Christ. And such sad events unfold thereafter. They put a crown of thorns on Jesus's head, and his skin is bleeding from the crown of thorns. And then they force him to carry the cross, and he carries the cross up the hill, and on the top of the hill he is crucified. And while we do not want to dwell on the sadness of the crucifixion, we cannot also escape why the crucifixion is a sad event, right? Because the hands and the feet of Christ were nailed to the cross. And Swami has said that at one point when Jesus was on the cross, he so I'm just flashing for you one little slide what happened on the cross. He was crucified on a Friday alongside two robbers on each side of him, and a sign above his head read, King of the Jews. And till the last minute, people could not understand what Christ meant by the King of the Jews. He never spoke or aspired to rule the Jews, but he was the ruler of the heart. And his kingdom was not the kingdom of earth, it was the kingdom that lies within each of us. He was pointing the way to the kingdom within us. And then, Swami has said, and even in the Bible it is recorded, that Christ was badly affected, and he called out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is he could bear no longer that pain. He could no longer bear that pain. And he called out, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, why have you forsaken me? O Lord, why have you forsaken me? And at that time, Swami says, a voice rang out which only Jesus heard, and that voice said to him, my dear son, all are one, be alike to everyone. So, in the Christian tradition, they say that Jesus cried out, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because, the sin of condemning and condemning and hurting a great soul was huge, but Christ forgave them. And many of you may not know, but uh, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, his kingdom, that is the time that he taught actively as a spiritual master, was just 6 years. But Jesus's spiritual teaching during his lifetime lasted only for 2.5 years. And it is mind boggling to see that the sacrifice, he was called the dove of God. The dove amongst birds is the most non-violent, peaceful example of peace. So Christ was called the dove of God. Another term commonly used for Christ is the Prince of Peace. So you can imagine how events unfolded. And that's why I try to give you a glimpse of Jewish history. There's a beautiful book called The Day Christ Died. It's just 100 pages, but it gives you that complexity in Jewish history, Roman rule, traditionalism, and how Christ was, without knowing it, becoming a threat to both the Jews and the Romans. But there are many beautiful aspects of the life of Christ. And Radio Sai has done a great job in bringing those together. And I want to show you a couple of them, which I cannot but hide because they are very beautiful. And you can also look at this link below. Please go and read this if you like. So Radio Sai has said that amongst the many different gospels, there are 4 gospels: Luke, John, Matthew, and Thomas. And Radio Sai has quoted the American president Thomas Jefferson in saying that the teachings of Thomas, the great disciple Thomas, are some of the most authentic teachings, unadulterated teachings of Christ. And I just wanted to go through a few of them. Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. Let one who seeks not stop seeking until one finds. Before one finds, one will be confused. When the truth overcomes the confusion, one will marvel and will rule over all. And what is this ruling? This ruling is not an external ruling or becoming a king or a powerful person. One rules over the world. Why? Because there are so few realized masters in the world that when the world comes across a realized person, the world falls at his feet or at her feet, because those people are not confused. They are not seeking any worldly gain. And as you can see in the life of Jesus and in the life of Swami, these two things are equal and balanced: love and sacrifice. Somebody who has truly understood the meaning of selfless love is not practicing sacrifice. He is not trying to be a sacrificing individual. He is the embodiment of sacrifice. Think for a minute about Swami. From childhood, he performed miracles only to inspire people. But if you look at the media, even when you search for something true, about Swami due to the way the internet works. The internet pushes up bad interpretations of and things which confuse us. I'll tell you, in my own building in Puttaparthi where I lived, I used to work in the hospital. One lady was there, very old lady. She came to me and said, "Beta, you work in the hospital. I have seen you for so many years here. Can you please tell me what is the meaning of this echocardiography?" I was very immature in those days. I looked at her papers and I forgot Swami's teachings that never tell the harsh truth. So I looked at those people and I said, "Oh, Ma, they are saying that your ejection fraction is only 25%." So she asked me, "Beta, is that good or bad?" Then it struck me that I should not have said only 25%. And I said, "Yes, Ma, it is not a good level, but by that time the damage had been done." And next morning, what she comes to my house on the sea floor, she knocks on my door, say, "Beta, yesterday you told me that my ejection fraction is not good in my echocardiography report. But I felt very worried and concerned, so I prayed to Swami, come down with me, Beta, to my room." And she took me to her room. And there in the black and white photograph of Swami, Vibhuti was pouring out. This lady could hardly walk, but the vibhuti was pouring out. Why? I was the culprit. I was guilty. I had scared that lady with my half knowledge of medicine. And Swami had intervened and showed his hand, given his reassurance to that lady. She was just one old lady in some unknown room in Puttaparthi. But if you look at the media, brothers, sisters, the media has exactly tried to do what Annas and Caiaphas did in the day of Jewish history. And you and I have to be aware. You and I cannot look at God and the realized masters through the eyes of the media. And anyway, so these are some of the very beautiful teachings of Thomas which reflect the teaching of Christ. And as I come to the close, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on this, that this is a very fascinating instance. It is a miracle, but what is a miracle? Swami's entire life was a miracle. You and I are surprised by miracles, and due to our analytical brain, we look for a how did Swami do this miracle? There is no how, because Swami did so many miracles. One day, Swami said, "I will show you Ganga in Puttaparthi," and people laughed. And then there was a mighty river flowing in Puttaparthi. So, for you and me, until the time of God realization, we will never understand truly whether Swami performed a miracle. Swami was not a magician to perform miracles. Swami's nature, just like the magnetism of his form, was so much. Do we think that Swami is trying to attract people? Once Swami sat on the veranda and he said, "Why do you all only look at me?" And said, "Swami, you're so beautiful, we love you." And he said, "Am I the whitest amongst you?" And he pointed to some boys who were very fair. And he said, "Chudu, akkada entamandi foreigners kurchonaru. So many white people are sitting there. Am I fairer than them? No." And he said, "What attracts you to me?" And that made us think that it was not an external attraction that we had for Swami. So in the same way, I request you all to not think of Swami performing a miracle. He never actually performed a miracle. The divine intent, the divine energy, the divine compassion was mellifluous. It was like an orchestra. Around him, an orchestra was playing. It was not the performance of a miracle. And when he did this in 1973, Swami stopped for some years to produce the lingam. But in 1973, he took a small band of students and devotees and Hislop happened to be part of that group. And Swami stopped in the Bandipur river, and then he went down to the banks of the river, and Hislop was close to him. Hislop lived in John Hislop, lived in California, San Diego, and then moved to Mexico. And then Swami put two twigs together, and he asked Dr. John Hislop, "What is this, Hislop?" And Hislop said, "Swami, it looks like a cross." And since Swami closed his fist for 4 or 5 or 6 seconds, which is a long time for a materialization. Anybody who's seen a materialization from Swami knows that it comes in a flash. And then Swami produced this crucifix. And brothers, this day of Easter and Good Friday is a good way for us to recollect that how our minds work versus how Bhagwan's and God's creativity, God's miraculousness flows. And Swami told him that it took me a few seconds because the actual wood from which the real cross on which Christ was crucified was made had disintegrated and had become part of the elements. So I went and requested the elements and I got that original wood back. And it is said that Dr. John Hislop went back to California, and you can see the crucifix is only about 3 inches long, and the image of Christ is about 1.5 inch, the idol. And he got the wood examined, and he was told by carbon dating that the wood is at least 20 centuries old. And then he had photographs, high resolution photographs of the image taken. And I will just show you what he has written over here, not me. He says, "I am sure it is the greatest sculpture of Christ ever made. In my estimation, it is the most extraordinary object Sri Sathya Sai has ever created for the joy of his devotees." So anyway, the purpose of our recollecting these incidents, we can forever marvel at Swami, but Swami wants us to take away some of these learnings and the inspiration. Mainly, it is the inspiration. If you see what made Christianity the religion that lasted 2100 years, and there are so many churches, Jesus Christ is worshipped in them. There are so many people who renounce their lives and become priests and take to the path of teaching theology and working with people, taking confessions and all of that. And all of that came from the symbol of what the cross is. The cross is the symbol of sacrifice. And let's discuss a couple of these thoughts here. One is the fearlessness. Christ never had any fear. He, though he knew what was coming, it was a complete fearlessness. And this fearlessness is very important for us devotees because all of us are very fearful. Swami used to joke and say that from birth till death, you are constantly in chinta. You are fearing. Oh, even before I came to this session, in my mind was the fear that will I be ready when Brother Senthil calls me? Will I be here in time? For any small thing, whether you have to reach the airport or join a call or eat your lunch in time before your meeting, we are constantly living in fear. Some of these fears are small, some of these fears are big. Some of us have the fear, will I save enough for my retirement? Now, we are not here in the Sai Center to examine our fears, but we are here to witness our fears. If we witness our fears and we have developed that self-confidence, Swami says when they asked Swami, how to develop this universal love that you are talking about? Swami says, develop self-confidence. And what is that self-confidence? In the Western world, people say if you're 6 feet, if you're broad shouldered, if you can dunk the basketball, if you can, you know, uh, you exercise a lot, you have a good job, that and 3 cars, that adds to your confidence. Swami's definition of self confidence is very different. Self confidence is confidence in the concept that you are not just the body and the mind, but that you are the self. Self confidence starts with the belief in the teaching of the master. And why would you believe the teaching of the master? Because the master is not related to you. He doesn't want anything from you, least of all your money or your, that you should believe in him. The master is purely selfless. And when you find a selfless Sadguru, then you feel like believing in him. And when you have self confidence, the next step is self satisfaction. Because then you know that, hey, why should I fear? I'm satisfied. I take whatever is in my life as the prasadam of my Sadguru. Why? Because my Sadguru is Sarva Shakti Murtaye Namah, we say. But do we believe it? When we chant the 108 names, one of the names is Sarva Shakti Murtaye Namah. Oh God, you are the embodiment of all the forces, all the powers. But do we believe it at all? If you are really worshipping and loving the one who is the most powerful, then why did Christ get crucified? That is exactly the meaning of surrender. Because the one who puts his trust in the great masters abandons all hope for himself, abandons all selfish seeking, and then whatever comes is the prasadam of the Lord. And you don't say, somebody told Swami, I trusted you fully, I surrendered in you, but nothing good happened in my life. And Swami says very lovingly to that person, but if you had truly surrendered, where is the me? Where is the you? The idea of surrender is to lose the I, to lose the me, lose the mind, and then there is no way, there is nobody left to judge that Swami, something good happened or didn't happen. And Jesus Christ came to show us that that highest belief led to the highest sense of abandonment, conscious abandonment to his Father, to the Lord. And I don't want to take too much time. I know you have other programs as well, but there are 2 or 3 big uh, references to Jesus. Jesus came to foster faith, and he said that even a mustard seed size of faith is enough. So though we are born 2100 years after the advent of Christ, we are very fortunate because Swami said in one discourse that Jesus was also called Isa, Isa. And Swami said another way to recognize Isa is by Sai. And then Swami added a very beautiful and very great revelation. He said, Jesus never said that I will come again. Jesus said, my Father who sent me will come after me. And he pointed to the sheep who was saying, Bah, Bah. So it is through our faith in Swami that we will be redeemed. And while Jesus is a great example of sacrifice, he's also a great example of love. And we as yet may not be ready to for the third level, right? Self-confidence, self-satisfaction, self-sacrifice. And we have our fears that, oh my God, can I sacrifice everything? Can I give up everything? But Mirabai, when she had to leave the palace and go, she never thought of it as a sacrifice. Saint Francis of Assisi, who was a great devotee of Jesus, never thought that he is giving up anything. So, we should not fear what is the meaning of surrender and whether you can do it. Surrender, self sacrifice will come automatically as a natural progression when you are ready for it. It's only because we think of these as concepts that we fear them. But our task is to develop self confidence and to marvel at the stories of Jesus. I remind you that please go and read about Jewish history, read about the extraordinary life of Jesus, and let that joy and the similarity between how he showed comparison and how our Bhagwan showed comparison. Just taste that joy. Just enjoy those leelas and at one point, the time will come when, through self satisfaction, you and I will become the leading lights to sacrifice our lives in the way that Swami sacrificed his own life for this great mission of Sai. And at that point, we don't need to hold on to the idea that Swami's life was his message. Hopefully, a time will come when all of us devotees will live our lives, as his message. And others will say, oh, look at these Sai devotees. They are truly reflecting and living their lives in the image of Sai. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sairam Ravi, thank you so much for such a wonderful session. You almost took me into a time machine, and I felt like Romans are going to invade. And it is beautiful that you stitched the three key aspects of the Romans, the Jewish tradition, and how Jesus Christ the Lord came right into that when people are already confused between power struggle and the traditions, how he brought that awareness back. Certainly, the miracles that you shared, I have not heard the vision part of it in that detail, but certainly it relates me to some of the experiences that Swami has done, except probably we heard hundreds of such things that Swami has done over his 85-year lifetime. Unbelievable. What a blessing that we all have. The importance of Last Supper, that's an amazing relationship that I never understood until you just explained to me. Swami has given us so much gift in terms of vibhuti. It almost makes me feel like if we carry Swami's work selflessly, we are also bound to experience the miracles of love that the 12 disciples did experience after Jesus Christ. So thank you so much for giving that additional connection. Then the selfless love aspect of it, the universal presence of Swami, how he is there, regardless of whether you're the physical presence or it's a conversation between two individuals, and how he intervenes and he showed, gave that confidence to that person by the Vibhuti manifestation when she was disturbed. That shows us grace. I mean, what else explains that? That's a universal master. And again, the story of Dr. Hislop and the photos. I've seen the photo maybe from a distance, but not that close photo. But it's beautiful. Thanks for giving us a divine vision of Jesus Christ the Lord, and from Swami's hand. That's really helpful. And the aspect of mind versus spirit, how we have to grow through the four pillars: the self-confidence, self-satisfaction, the self-sacrifice we have to imbibe. And hence, through that path is only we can ever get self-realization. The quick relationship of Isa and Sai, how we can relate to it, that's a beautiful anecdote. And then the ultimate is Baba, when Jesus Christ showed them indirectly to the sheep, and that said Baba. And here we are, we have experienced Swami, and it's such a divine occasion that, you know, you brought this whole connection, this 2100 year history in about an hour. So thank you so much for such a wonderful connection you've given us with Swami. May Swami bless you.
Thank you. Sairam. Sairam.
Sairam.
I have a big surprise.
Just a moment, having some technical difficulties.
What happened, Subhanti?
Surprise, surprise! I have a big surprise for everyone. I'm so excited for today. What is the surprise today? Swami has sent us an Easter gift. I cannot believe. Can I see? Can I see? Jesus here, Jesus there, Jesus everywhere. Also, he sent us a few messages for his children. Wow! What are those messages? Love all, serve all. Always be happy. Hurt ever, hurt never. Spend the day thinking about Jesus. Enjoy your Easter singing and dancing.
Easter time, we have so much to do. Time for bunnies, time for eggs, but time for Jesus too. Oh, Easter time, we have so much to do. Easter time, Jesus showed his love. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Oh, Easter time, Jesus showed his love. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Easter time, we have so much to do. Time for bunnies, time for eggs, but time for Jesus too. Oh, Easter time, Jesus showed his love. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of
Ganesha.
Ganesha, I pray you will clear my way.
Ganesha.
Will clear my way.
Ganesha, I pray you 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 will clear my way.
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Swami.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Swami.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
Ganesha, I pray you will clear my way.
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 Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Swami.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Swami.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Jai Ganesha, Sai Ganesha, clear my way to Baba.
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha,
Ganesha, Ganesha.
Ganesha, Ganesha.
I bow down at the feet of Ganesha.
I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
And it's sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
It's sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
It's sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
And it's sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
Oh, what a love between my sire and I.
Oh, what a love between my sire and I.
Oh, what a love between my sire and I.
Oh, what a love between my sire and I.
My sire and I, 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 my sire and I.
I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
And it's sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
And it's sweeter and sweeter as the days go by.
Oh, what a love between my sire.
Oh, what a love between my sire and I.
My sire and I, my sire and I.
My sire and I, my sire and I.
My sire and I, my sire and I. I keep feeling your love in me over and over again.
Swami, take my hand. Jesus, take my hand. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Swami, take my hand. Jesus, take my hand. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
I'll never forget you, you'll always be with me. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Never forget you, always prevent me. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Guide and protector, mother and father, dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
God and protector, mother and father, dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me loving service, peace and contentment, dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me love and service, peace and contentment, dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me loving service, peace and contentment, dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me how to serve as please and contentment. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Swami, take my hand. Jesus, take my hand. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Swami, take my hand. Jesus, take my hand. Dear Lord, take my hand I'll lead the way.
I'll never forget you, you'll always be with me. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Never forget you, always forget me. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Guide and protector, mother and father. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Guide and protector, mother and father. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me loving service, peace and contentment. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me love and service, peace and contentment. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me loving service, peace and contentment. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Teach me love and service, peace and contentment. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
Swami, take my hand. Jesus, take my hand. Dear Lord, take my hand and lead the way.
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
Sai Rama, Sai Rama, Sai Rama, Sai Rama.
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 His love brings us joy, eternal happiness within His name is bliss, Ananda.
His love brings us joy, eternal happiness within His name is bliss, Ananda.
Ananda, 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 Ananda.
Ananda, Ananda,
At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram. At any time of day, morning, noon, or night, I always sing Sai Ram. Sai Rama, 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 Sai Rama. His love brings a joy, eternal happiness within. His name is bliss, heart and eye. His love brings a joy, eternal happiness within. His name is bliss, heart and eye. Ananda, 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 Sai Rama, 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 Ananda, Ananda, Sai Rama, Ananda, Ananda, Sai Rama, Ananda, Ananda, Sai Rama, Ananda. At any time of day, morning or night, I always sing Sai Ram.
I am the light is within me.
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 I am the light, I am the light.
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 I am the light is within me.
I am the light is within me.
The bells of paradise, I hear them ring.
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 Blessed is the Christ born within.
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 The bells of paradise, I hear them sing.
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 Sacred Sai Baba within.
Sacred Sai Baba within.
Sacred Sai Baba within.
Sacred Sai Baba within.
All I lights are one, all faiths unite. All lights are one, all faiths unite. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. I am the light is within me. I am the light is within me. I am the light, I am the light. I am the light is within me. I am the light is within me. The bells of paradise, I hear them ring. The bells of paradise, I hear them ring. Blessed is the Christ born within. Blessed is the Christ born within. The bells of paradise, I hear them sing. The bells of paradise, I hear them sing. Sacred Sai Baba within. Sacred Sai Baba within. All lights are one, all faiths unite. All lights are one, all faiths unite. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. In the human birth lies the light of the soul. I am the light is within me.
Our Jesus came and He is here again. 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 Sai Rama, Sai Krishna, Sai is His name. Sai Rama, Sai Krishna, Sai is His name. Sai Rama, Sai Allah, Sai is His name. Muhammad, Jehovah is His name. Saurashtra Muhammad, Jehovah is His name. Saurashtra Muhammad, Jehovah is His name. Saurashtra Muhammad, Jehovah is His name. Jesus Christ from Bethlehem and Sai is the same. Jesus Christ from Bethlehem and Sai is the same. Jesus Christ from Bethlehem and Sai is the same. Hallelujah, hallelujah, glory to thy name. 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 Satya Baba Sai Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Sai Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Prema Baba, blessed be thy name. Our Jesus came and He is here again. Our Jesus came and He is here again. Sai Rama, Sai Krishna, Sai is His name. Sai Rama, Sai Krishna, Sai is His name. Sai Rama, Sai Allah, Sai is His name. Sai Rama, Sai Allah, Sai is His name. Saurashtra Muhammad, Jehovah is His name. Saurashtra Muhammad, Jehovah is His name. Jesus Christ from Bethlehem and Sai is the same. Jesus Christ from Bethlehem and Sai is the same. Hallelujah, hallelujah, glory to thy name. Hallelujah, hallelujah, glory to thy name. Satya Baba Sai Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Sai Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Prema Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Prema Baba, blessed be thy name. Hallelujah, hallelujah, glory to thy name. Hallelujah, hallelujah, glory to thy name. Satya Baba Sai Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Sai Baba, blessed be thy name. Satya Baba Baba Prema Baba Bhakti Vidane. Our Jesus came many years ago.
Sairam. Easter is a very important holiday celebrated by Christians all over the world that celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth, was born in Bethlehem to Joseph and Mary. In Christianity, he is regarded as a major religious figure and as the Son of God. Throughout his many travels, Jesus performed miracles such as healing the sick, and he presented several discourses that taught love, compassion, and humility. He quickly attracted a following of people from different kingdoms, and his disciples proclaimed him as the Messiah. Around the year 30 CE, Jesus went to Jerusalem to observe the Jewish holiday of Passover, which commemorates the Hebrews' liberation from slavery in Egypt. Arriving a week before the holiday, his followers greeted him with palm branches and praised him as the Son of David and as the Son of God. Jesus had a vision for what the future would hold, and so he had a Last Supper with his disciples and told them what would happen in the coming days. One of his disciples, Judas, then betrayed Jesus and agreed to turn him over to the Roman priests to be arrested. Once Jesus was taken by the priests, he was then crucified on the cross by the priests because they believed his claims of being the Son of God were false. On the third day after his crucifixion, however, Jesus rose from the dead and appeared to his mother Mary, who informed his disciples. He then instructed his disciples to go into the world and preach the gospel to all of humanity before he himself ascended into heaven. The day that Jesus Christ arose from the dead is now celebrated as Easter. In the Christian calendar, Easter follows Lent, which is a period of 40 days that are traditionally observed by acts of penance and fasting. The week before Easter Sunday is known as Holy Week and includes Maundy Thursday, which is the commemoration of the Last Supper, Good Friday, the day of the crucifixion, and Holy Saturday, the transition between crucifixion and resurrection. All Christian traditions have their own special rituals that they perform every Easter. Many celebrate Easter with special church services, and in the US, people gift each other chocolate eggs and hold Easter egg hunts for children to find eggs that have been hidden. All over the world, Easter is regarded as a holiday to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and for all Christians, it is a time to come together and celebrate with friends and family.
love you. Father, I adore you. I lay my life before you. How I love you. Oh, my sweet Jesus, you gave your life to save us. How you must love us. Oh, my sweet Jesus, you gave your life to save us. How you must love us. Oh, how you must love us. Swami, I adore you. Oh, Swami, I adore you. I lay my life before you. How I love you. Swami, I adore you. I lay my life before you. How I love you, and we know you must love us too. You are the light in my life, like a candle, your love will always glow. Jesus, you are the light in my life, like a candle, your love will always glow. My sweet Lord, all we yearn for is love, like a river, your love will always flow. My sweet Lord, all we yearn for is love, like a river, your love will always flow. Like a mother, you'll be there to wipe away my tears. Like a father, you'll be there to take away my fears. My Lord, my love, my sigh, my sweet Lord, my love, my sigh. Swami, you are the light in my life, like a star brightly shining in the sky. Jesus, you are the light in my life, like a star brightly shining in the sky. When I'm scared and afraid to go on, like an angel, you'll help me to get by. When I'm scared and afraid to go on, like an angel, you'll help me to get by. Like a teacher, you'll be there to teach me to be true. Like a friend, you'll be there, I'll put my trust in you. My Lord, my love, my sigh, my sweet Lord, my love, my sigh, my sweet Lord, my love, my sigh, my sweet Lord, my love, my sigh.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Through countless dangers, doubts, and fears, I have already come. God's grace has brought me safely here, and grace will lead me home. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior's ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. His guiding hand shall be my stay, His strength with me abide. And though I stumble day by day, He shall not leave my side. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior's ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. This earth will one day melt like snow. The sun refused to shine, yet God who sent me here below will be forever mine. You'll be forever mine.
Hallelujah, 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 Lord, we are one, we are one, we are one. Sai, we are one, we are all one. Lord, we are one, we are one, we are one. Sai, we are one, we are one. Rejoice in the Lord, say Baba, and again I say rejoice, 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 and again I say rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord, say Rama, and again I say rejoice, 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 and again I say rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord, say Jesus, and again I say rejoice, 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 and again I say rejoice, 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 and again I say rejoice, and again I say rejoice, and again I say rejoice. Sai Baba, Sai Baba.
1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1 through 3. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead.
Book of Romans, chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. For if we have been united with him in a death like his, we will certainly also be united with him in a resurrection like his. For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that the body ruled by sin might be done away with, and that we should no longer be slaves to sin.
Romans 6, 8-11. Now if we died with Christ, we believe that we will also live with him. For we know that since Christ was raised from the dead, he cannot die again. Death no longer has mastery over him.
Matthew 28, 5 and 6. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay."
Philippians chapter 3, verse 10. I want to know Christ, yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death.
Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4-8. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away.
Romans 6, 8-11. The death he died to sin once for all, but the life he lives to God. In the same way, count yourselves dead to sin but alive to God in Jesus Christ.
Acts chapter 4, verse 33. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and God's grace was so powerfully at work in them all.
Thessalonians 4:14. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him.
Luke chapter 23, verses 46 and 47. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion, seeing what had happened, praised God and said, "Surely this was a righteous man."
Is here, song is at this heart is here. Come to save devotees everywhere. Come to bless his children everywhere. All in Puttaparthi, the Lord of the universe is here. All in temple like the moon, shining with divine illumination, filling all the place and the sky. He is always serving those in need, answering the prayer of devotees, giving praise to you. The Lord of the universe is here. Saw you are true God himself. Mother, you are everything to us. Father, you are everything to us. You are the divine carnal energy, manifests all that we ever see. You are the one reality, the Lord of the universe is here. Silent, the sacred form of home, universal radiance divine. Please accept this offering of mine, the flame of love that burns within my heart, meaning we can never be apart. You and I are ever one. The Lord of the universe is here. Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, 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 Om Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, Narayana, Om. The Lord of the universe is here. Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, 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 Om Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, Narayana, Om. The Lord of the universe is here. Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, 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 Om Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, Narayana, Om Satya Narayana, Narayana, Om. The Lord of the universe is here. Peace, peace, peace. Samasta lokaः Sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaः Sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaः Sukhino bhavantu. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai.
Sai Ram, everyone. Thank you so much for joining again. Happy Easter and have a blessed week ahead. Thank you.
Sai Ram Shobhat, thank you.